How long gone? It is a absolutely scorching hot Tuesday afternoon in New York City. It's 100 degrees. The pavement is sweating. Steam is coming off the streets. Everybody's scantily clad. The city bikes are crisscrossing the city. And I am, let's just say, not happy to be back during this period.
Damn, that sucks. Yeah, over here in LA, it's so early. The sun hasn't come out yet, so we are really beasting in different playgrounds.
The sun isn't up at 8:45. Actually,
no. It's hidden by the marine layer
gloom,
of the morning.
Of course.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah, sure.
Come 3:00, it'll get up to a brisk 79. It'll be
that's nice.
Be a beautiful day. I'm sure. It'll get back up to something nasty and stinky soon. But I think when you come to LA tomorrow, you're gonna have yummy weather. But since you are a fashionista. You said, everyone's walking around, the sidewalk is sweating. Scantily clad folks. What is the summer 2025 fashion trend report? I know, are we still wearing the mesh, the row,
I saw
jelly slippers that break because you got them on Toomey?
Those have been replaced. No, the real one's broken. That was the problem. They've been replaced by flip-flops. Which I'm happy to see come back because I don't really have a problem with those the way some.
The Havianas are back, an Orange County staple.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't. I never understood the issue with flip-flops, but luckily they're back, and I'm happy with that. But yeah, there's some mesh shirts out there.
Is there anything new, though, is what I'm wondering? Or is it just the same old kind of shit?
I mean, besides the flat sneakers that are all upwards of $650,
right.
No. It's the flat sneaker wars continue, but I haven't seen the like Zara or COS versions yet. I'm sure they exist. The only ones I've seen are the Prada ones that are the most expensive, then the Margiela ones, which are the best ones, and then the Dries ones that are the least expensive.
Didn't you say there was also a Prada Keds as well entering the chat?
They just showed the Prada Keds, so that's not on the market yet. But it's
well, they're really comfortable. I mean, I'm surprised they had them in my size. They sent them a couple months ago. They're pretty dope. But you said they're not out yet.
They're actually super. They're actually super dope.
So do you think that everyone
crazy.
is having a low profile flat sneaker because of like the zero drop kind of Vibram sole toe shoe?
No, I think it's
everyone is deadlifting, so we don't have a Zoom Air pouch in our sole anymore.
I wish that was the case. No, I think it's strictly a kind of whiplash from the giant shoe Balenciaga era. Is what it's just the complete opposite of that, which is I think those shoes were comically oversized and these are comically undersized, and we can't just meet in the middle.
But also, I mean, I agree with you, and I think that plays a part into it. But the giant oversized Balenciaga shoes, we all saw photos of them, laughed at them. The one weird gay guy got them on 60% off sale at Departamento.
That is not true. Maybe in LA,
but it wasn't like a $1,300 Balenciaga New Balance ripoff shoe or Asics ripoff shoe with an oversized sole. Those were only being worn by select people. A few basketball players maybe had some. Some fashion gays had them, but they didn't have the streets in a chokehold. Most people found them to be ugly and ridiculous, right?
I mean, I think that they had the streets in a chokehold in a way that was more aspirational than reality. I think that like that whole look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they weren't. I mean, you weren't seeing them. It's not like they were sambas.
That's true.
They definitely weren't like permeating.
I guess it doesn't have to be worn by everyone to be played out. It just has to be
seen too much.
Just seen in general.
Which seen now happens on the internet. So you can see. I feel like I saw 1 million people wearing those shoes, and how many of those were in real life, I do not know. I do not know.
Yeah, that's kind of the interesting thing.
I do not know.
But okay, that makes sense. I'd like to think that Hunter's mobility training and his Onitsuka Tiger play. I think that
he wears those
lends a little bit.
He wears those like karate shoes, the ones that are like canvas, and they're
exactly.
But I can't remember what the brand name is. They actually look pretty cool though, and I bet they're going to have a moment because they're very cheap.
Yeah, they kind of look like shoes that the Japanese Navy gave out in the 40s, kind of energy.
Yeah, they're cool. They're come in black and just regular canvas. I think
because Dua Lipa's doing a headstand every other IG post, and I feel like a lot of people are getting into their mobility era.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Or is it just me?
No, I think that's true. I mean, I don't follow Dua Lipa on Instagram.
Good.
But I I'm sure she's doing a lot. And anything to distract away from her music is a plus. So I can't blame her for that.
Anything but that fucking pear-shaped engagement ring.
I saw that yesterday. Emily Sundberg's newsletter was all about pear-shaped engagement rings, and I was like, wow, this is something I've truly never thought about in my entire life.
Well, I mean, not to get into it, but it feels like I know that they call it that, but it feels more teardrop shaped than a pear.
Yeah, I think that somebody probably branded it as pear at some point, and
of course.
that became. I agree with you. It does look more like a teardrop.
Like
my quads.
Real ballers have a real pear shaped. It doesn't come to a point at the top. It's rounded and it's fat and chunky. It's kind of like that. When we were talking about that cabbage, that teardrop cabbage that comes up to a point, and you're like, what is the deal with it? And I said it's simply cosmetic and ornamental benefits. Same thing for this ring thing, but
straight up.
I feel like the world of trends doesn't belong in the world of engagement ring action. But that's a whole other pod.
Well, trends aren't. Unfortunately, they can't be avoided in any, basically anywhere at this stage, thanks to the World Wide Web. But yeah, I guess I've never. I find diamonds not something that I'm super interested in for myself personally. My chain is non-existent, so I don't really think about this kind of stuff. The cut and clarity.
Yeah.
I know you're kind of always thinking about it.
I got my RIA certificates in the safe. It's all taken care of. Don't worry about that. But yeah, I mean, we don't really think about diamonds, right?
I think you think about it once in your life when you have to buy it, or if you want to give your chick some.
Hopefully once, right?
15,000. Well, I was looking yesterday at a jewelry brand that Alex was showing me.
I love it when jewelry brands show.
It was a ring, and I know the woman who makes it, and it's $12,000 for a diamond ring that is like a shape of a letter, and you can get any letter, and they're very, very nice. But I was just like, 12 bands is kind of steep, for that. But I don't. Obviously,
well, I guess I'd
worth
have to
it.
take a look at it.
You
I mean,
gotta
that's
put
an
your
average price for like an engagement ring, right?
Yeah, this is like a fun piece of jewelry you wear sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I think engagement rings always depend on the earnings of traditionally. I think it's 3 months of salary.
3 months salary, but we live in a freelance economy. I mean, how do you really do that on a macro level?
Yeah. How is Mr. Beast ever going to get engaged? Like it's crazy. He's not going to be able to parse that from that.
Yeah, I think I wonder if you can get the diamond ring that's in the shape of an X, and that's sort of the baller version of the Swatch X watch for Maybe there's a turnstile member or two who's able to afford the X ring as a nice statement symbol, right?
I would love. Oh my God! Imagine an X ring. That's nice. That's very nice.
An X pinky. Get that tooken on the train on the way home from high school. That'd be wonderful.
You know that I never had an X swatch actually, but that's a nice piece of design. I actually think that holds up. That's the reason it's been popular for so long.
Yeah, and they remade it, and it looks different, and that's the worst thing you could ever do in the history of the world.
They changed the X swatch.
It's slightly different. I think they made it a little bit bigger, and if you can Google the the AB comp of the original and the remake, which happens all the time, but it's just like all you have to do is don't change it. No one ever wants you to change it. Like, oh, we brought back this root beer from the blah blah blah, but we added this instead, and they're like,
please don't add. Please, no, you're right. I mean, that also is like. The whole point of that is how simple it is. If you add anything or change anything, you're only going to muck it up.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes it's easier and cheaper to do it the new way, and hope they don't notice.
Yes, I assume
that's the way it goes.
The young straight edge warriors aren't as tuned in as we were.
Yeah, those fucking bitches. Really quick, speaking of working out, shout out to friend of the show Scott, who does a coffee company called Homecoming. He sent me some beans, which he has done before. Great beans, cute packaging. And included a T-shirt, and when brands send you a shirt, it's always like, ugh. But on the card he says, "Here's some coffee and a workout tee," and then I just like the idea of him framing it as like, this is a workout tee, this is a T-shirt with a logo on it. It's a nice logo, but it's a logo for a coffee company. I only expect you to wear it as a workout tee.
No, that is cool.
I think more brands need to start doing that wording when we get that APC bag in the mail that don't fit just right. This is just a workout thing. Don't worry about it.
I think a workout, I mean, that is a whole category. I mean, I buy T-shirts to support things just to wear them to the gym 5 times, and then sweat through it. But I do think that's nice to just level set before the shirt is even on.
Level set. And just to remind you, if you're like, oh, the last thing I need is another tee from another brand, if you just frame it like, oh, I could use, I have my old coffee company t-shirt that is becoming threadbare. Now we'll replace it with a new coffee t-shirt.
I think we had a great Pond coffee t-shirt.
Wore it yesterday.
That I wore. I wore it a lot.
I wore it to Pilates.
I wore that shirt a lot. Yeah, I wore that shirt a lot.
There's a lot of bitches at the Glendale Motivate Pilates studio who are like, what is Pond coffee? All right. What else is there? I guess that's we have somebody
Pond.
here in the Zoom chat.
Yeah, that's John. John is. We can introduce our guest.
Actually, one before, if we have 2 minutes to kill, I was watching the basketball finals. Unfortunately, our Pacers lost. I became endeared to a player on that team named TJ. Great player, loved him. But they were showing, people are talking about the differences between, watching the NBA finals, back in the day, the pageantry, the excitement, the blah, 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 the glitz, the glamour, the fireworks, and watching it now. And it's just like, it just feels like another game kind of thing. And I noticed one specific thing. They'll put the little stats up on the crawler at the bottom, whatever it is, interesting stats. And you would see, like turnovers for the game. And it'll say, OKC 17 turnovers, Pacers 9, turnovers, whatever.
Sure.
I was watching the game 2 days ago, and instead of saying turnovers for the game, it says turnover story.
Oh God, Jesus Christ! I thought you were gonna hit me with the suicide is now unalived type thing, but this might be worse than that somehow. Like everything can't be a
That's
story.
That's just not okay, guys.
Everything can't be a story. That's just not. It exists.
Well, I mean,
in one place.
If we're
Instagram has stories, nothing else does. That's how it's got to be.
If we're talking about the hair story of Blackpink, that's fine. If we're talking about what is your shoe story for the Miu Miu fall winter show, that's fine. If it's turnovers in a basketball game, it doesn't need to be your story. What's your turnover story?
It's really funny. So we ask all the NBA legends, what is their turnover story?
It's giving rebound.
That's really funny. That's really funny. That's so stupid. All right. We have a guest today. Richard Russell is a musician, producer, and he owns the record label XL Recordings, which is responsible for, countless records that you have in your collection. He's put out several studio albums himself. He's produced everything from, Bobby Womack to Peter Gabriel to Gil Scott-Heron.
More importantly, released music from Burial, his own solo project. Everything was recorded. I think he got a Mercury Prize nom a while ago. Nice ambient vibe. How Long Gone alumni. He's released the Fontaines DC record, the most recent one that's really good. Kenny Beats, Joy Orbison, King Cruel, MIA before the incident, Radiohead before their incident.
I wasn't gonna gas him up this much, but yeah, you're right. It is. He's got. Let's not forget Tom York.
Of course, Tom York, but the most importantly, the recent record from DJ Python, friends of the show.
Oh, that's your okay. Wow.
New Fortet record, gigs, a lot of the early kind of grime stuff, Dizzy Rascal, shit like that. So legendary label, tons of stories, a lot of life lived. He's kind of like if Rick Rubin was cool. So let's give him a zoom.
Yeah, often we have people in your position that are professional musicians with access to incredible equipment, et cetera, and they often stumble over the Bluetooth issues, and it's always interesting if that's who it is.
Yeah, I think there's something like where you look extra lame if you're meant to be someone with some kind of audio expertise if you can't get this shit to work.
I take offense to that as our sound person, as our sound boy of this episode. I take offense to that.
Well, you're just an analog cat. You know what I mean? You need a wire most of the time to get that warm. You can't use this Bluetooth shit ain't giving you the real sound you need.
It's true.
I like your Pet Shop Boys poster.
Thanks, mate.
I'm a huge Pet Shop Boys fan, but I never talk to her. It's weird. No one ever asked me about the Pet Shop. No one ever talks about to me about the Pet Shop. I love the Pet Shop Boys.
Why does no one ever talk to me about the Pet Shop Boys? This is bullshit.
Well, I talk about music all the time, and they just don't ever. It's weird. They don't seem to come up. I don't know why that is.
That is strange.
Well, you have. I was skimming through the memoir, and I think you mentioned, early aspirations of mimicking Adam Ant or other kind of, early '80s British, less than heterosexual style music. So maybe that's why it hasn't come up all the time. If you're, putting out the Gigs records and the the punishing IDM tunes, they're not like, hey, what do you think about "Always on My Mind" by the Pet Shop Boys?
Banger.
So yeah, let's get into how gay you are, bro.
Well, but I did. I grew up on '80s pop, and that was because Pet Shop Boys actually turned up a little later, right? They were mid '80s. They were actually, as everything else kind of faded out. I'm actually writing about this at the moment. I'm writing about the '80s at the moment. So I've been going deep into this period, and I've sort of realized there was this sort of narrative where, like, early '80s, we had all these amazing synth pop artists and what people used to call new romantic, and we had Culture Club and Spandau Ballet and Wham and Duran Duran, and they were all exciting. They all did well in America. But I think what then happened was the big boys turned up: Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna. And actually, once they kind of like really got going, our guys were all over, except George Michael. And George could compete musically with those guys, but he wasn't built as ruthlessly as they all are. As they all are. This is the sort of story that I seem to be. I mean, it's just my interpretation.
You mean ruthlessly as far as like I'm gonna crush my competition kind of vibe? Like I want to be number one. He was more of an artiste, maybe.
I just think he was a really delicate, very sensitive guy, whereas I think Madonna, Prince,
Michael Jackson, famously known as being tough as nails, not sensitive at all, right?
in a way, those guys weren't. They just wanted to win.
Yeah, I kind of think Michael Jackson's a killer.
Yeah, they all did have killer instincts.
Yeah.
They all were, their goal was to be number one. But that's why George Michael is the best out of all of them, right? Because he was a real artist. He didn't. Every time I watch his documentary on the plane, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man.
I know.
They took the wrong Wham, right?
My first boss was a guy, like a real new wave head. And the amount of George Michael we listened to in that store, I got a full crash course in the George Michael catalog at a clothing store in Atlanta, Georgia in 2003. I had never thought about it once. And I really came to appreciate it. I really, really came to appreciate it.
A good pop song is a good pop song.
He wasn't taken seriously at the time, especially in this country, especially early on. He wasn't taken seriously because of the, how he dressed initially and the fact that Wham just wasn't taken seriously. And all his peers were seen as like someone like Paul Weller, the Jam. They were seen as incredibly serious and political, but he, and Paul Weller was brilliant. But I feel like George Michael is someone who, like, the world has really caught up with their greatness quite kind of late on, and people, because he was an amazing producer. I mean, incredible.
Yeah. I always say the best thing you can do for your career is die. That's That's always the best thing you can do. It's like if you leave us too early, people really love you more. It's a sad reality.
I mean, when he was in Beverly Hills and he was getting caught in the public bathrooms sucking dick, it was on the news, and everyone was painting him in a negative light. And now in 2025, those photos of him coming out of the public restroom are iconic, and people are celebrating his sexual freedom and how awesome it is and how cool his outfit was. But in the tabloids back in the 90s, it was just like this scoundrel, scourge of the earth coming out from under the bridge. Disgusting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it took him dying to get there.
It's funny. He grew up in the same area as I did, and he used to work. He's a little older than I was, but he used to work in his father's restaurant, which was on the same high street as the record shop where I worked in. It was funny. So when I started working in the record shop, he was already a pop star, and we were selling their records in the record shop. He wasn't in the restaurant anymore. People used to talk about him all the time. And I think there was something about just the fact that I knew he was from somewhere near. He was like, he was sort of real in some way.
Yeah, totally.
That kind of made you go, oh, right. And he was like, obviously he was a fan of soul music. I don't know. I think there was something really inspirational about him because he just sort of made these things become real. He made this whole dream of his become real, which I suppose made, the fact that he ended up not being happy, extra tragic, really.
Was the restaurant good?
Never ate in it.
Walk us through the menu.
What kind of cuisine? What kind of cuisine was George's dad peddling over there on High Street? Is what I'm asking.
Well, obviously, it was a Greek family.
Sure.
I believe though it was a steakhouse.
Okay.
I don't think it was Greek cuisine. I never ate there. Like, eating out was not a big part of my sort of family's thing.
Like that wasn't that, like, you wouldn't hit a Friday night with the family at a local restaurant.
No. That wasn't really on the. I think it was generally not done.
And was that for financial reasons?
I think it's a variety of things. Yeah, I think it would have been thought of as extravagant to do that. To do that when there wasn't. But even celebrations, I don't remember them happening in restaurants. But I also think in this country at that time, there was like our restaurant culture was like zero.
Like, they're opening the same cans of beans at the restaurant that you're opening at home, so why pay double to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard you guys talk about food in this country. It's been interesting hearing you talk about it. I discovered. Well, it's everyone knew this spot, but I'd never been there until I heard you talk about it.
Which one?
Oh, we're putting you on to London food. That's very cool.
yeah. And now I'm like, oh, it's obvious that spot. And actually, since then, I've like met the owner, and it's like Canteen.
Oh yeah, Canteen's great.
Rochelle Canteen.
No. He's talking about Canteen, the place.
Oh, just Canteen.
Yeah, the place that I went to. It's the guy. It's a guy that used to work at River Cafe, right?
Oh, I didn't know that was his background. He used to have restaurants in New York when he was like super young. And now he's got
maybe
the Pelican, that one, Canteen. They've got like a little spot upstairs called the Fat Badger, and they've got one called the Hero in Maida Vale.
Yes,
and they're all great.
The Fat Badger, I've heard of. The Fat Badger, such a great name for anything. I mean, that makes me want to put my credit card down.
It's great.
Love it.
It is one of the sort of exciting things about London at the moment.
So you eat out more often now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I love restaurants. I've always loved eating. I mean, I loved eating out as soon as I discovered the idea of it. I thought it was unbelievable that you could go and like try any food.
As soon as your bank account told you it was possible, you began your love affair with.
Now I've got greater freedom now. But even before that, and also like going to New York when I was 18 when I got there, just like experiencing that food culture, just like being able to get an amazing bagel and like a great slice of pizza and these like snack foods that were like extremely good. That was something that it was easy to come across in the UK.
It was, there was more exciting stuff in America than the chip batty at home, is what you're saying.
Butty.
Chip batty. That's what I said. It was just my accent.
It's an accent thing. I just got back from London last night, and I noticed that there is something that is very American, but you guys have done your own spin on it. There's a Pizza Hut slice shop in London that I have. Yes, a slice shop by our friends at Pizza Hut, something I've never seen in the continental United States. And I just wanted to congratulate you and your people on that innovation, because that's
amazing.
That's a smart move.
Pizza Hut was actually, I think, my kind of gateway restaurant.
Really?
I loved Pizza Hut on Edgware High Street. And also, I became known for having skills at the salad bar. Like, I could pile that thing up. Like, other people used to get me to build their salad bar bowls. And I think like the salad you get from there, I think it did have like fresh greens in it and stuff, but like the amount of like dressings and crouton and bacon bits and stuff. This wasn't like a healthy, like light side salad. This was like hefty food.
Do you remember any of your salad bar philosophy? I only remember having one, thing that I stick to, which is the first thing you put on the plate dictates the ratios of everything else. So you can't have a huge layer of your first thing, because then you're going to have to, it'll become too big. So what are some of your
there's
fundamentals with salad bar?
If you put the sweet corn at the bottom before you put any dressing
Gather around,
on,
children.
Right? That's lost to the world. Unless you're going to start like mixing the whole thing up, which would be because
the bowl isn't big enough for that.
No, and all your aesthetic work is going to be ruined. So I would say you're talking about a bed of greens, dressing, basically working towards smaller items as you go up. Everything getting
pyramid
smaller.
shape, a pyramid.
It's a pyramid, but with like the logistics of a lasagna, where there's a layer of greens, a bit of dressing, a layer of croutons, a layer of cheese or whatever it is.
Do you have somewhere?
Slowly working our way up.
Do you have somewhere in the States where like there's a salad bar and it's like really great? Are there only like really good ones?
Not that you build yourself. That's not. That is that. I think that was lost to like quote unquote germs at some point. I think people thought that was
they still have it at Whole Foods, but it's really
true.
Post Jeff Bezos. It's a fraction of what it used to be. But we have a huge salad bar culture. Somebody else makes it for you, though.
My recollection of the British Pizza Hut salad bar is there was no sneeze guard.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. See, you guys don't give a shit.
Yeah,
I like
stiff
that.
upper lip.
Was,
You're not sick. Get back to work.
You're too drunk to care who's sneezing. You don't give a shit about that.
Just get over this thing. Chat to your friends. Breathe in and out. Do whatever you
take some deep breaths of the greens. Let's get that in the nostrils. Let's really feel it. Let's really feel it. That's actually really funny because Pizza Hut, I think, was a formative part of every person Jason and I's age, like growing up, because they did this thing called the Book It program, and they would partner with schools, and if you read a certain amount of books, you get free pizza. And it was like this. It was a whole thing. So you spent a lot of time inside of Pizza Huts, and like the design and the taste, it's all kind of hardwired into my brain now.
In my recollection, the Pizza Hut deep pan pizza was extremely delicious.
Yeah, banging. Yeah, 100%.
And the bottom of it was almost like it was deep fried or something. The bottom, the base,
it had a nice crisp to it, and it did feel quite oily. I will say there was some oil.
There's a Maillard reaction in play.
But I also think that because now pizza is so popular and there's so many varietals, and Pizza Hut is sort of, that's not really, that was called pan, I believe, right, Jason? Not
personal
deep dish.
pan pizza.
Personal pan is what. So it did get that crispy, much like a Detroit style or something that's popular now.
Yeah, we were talking in the intro of this show about the Swatch. Remember when Swatch made the X Watch back in the 80s, and straight edge people would wear it as like a little, thingy, and then they just remade it a few years ago, and it's not the same. It looks a little different, and I think that's the problem. Like, we all reminisce the original Pizza Hut pan pizza, and they're never going to be able to duplicate it in 2025. They can do everything they want, but
never be the same.
It's just going to be fucked up. The cheese is different. The flour is different. It's all lost. And we don't even know if it was good or not.
I find it hard to imagine going in there now, but because there's options now. Even if you're in an airport, there's options.
Next time we're in London, we're hitting the slice shop together. It's on me.
Let's do it.
It's on me.
I'm up for doing it. Swatch watches still a big thing?
They still have stores, like,
they have stores. There's a store
all over
in New York. And
I wouldn't say it's it's definitely not as big as it was in the 80s, but it still has a following as like a interesting, affordable watch company.
Yeah, it's an affordable thing to like collect, and you can get some really crazy ones, on eBay or whatever. So I think there's that culture.
Thanks to the old iPhone, we're not really doing a whole lot of watch shopping in general, unless it's
people. Do either of you two wearing a watch?
Jason might be. I don't.
Not at the moment. No.
I don't like the way they feel.
I wear every single chain except when I'm in the house.
You have a lot of jewelry on, though. I notice you're iced out.
I do wear quite a lot of jewelry.
Let's get the fingers out, Richard. Let me see what you're working with.
Let's get the finger.
Okay.
Yeah, he's all right. He's got multiple. All right. So these custom or these chrome hearts? What are we working with?
This was a gift from my partner. She had this match to her eye. I like to think this is not her not keeping an eye on me, but looking out for me is more how I would see that.
I bet that's how she spun it too. That's smart. That's nice.
That's how I see that. And this one, you ever been to this place, the Great Frog? Have I got the name right?
I know the Great Frog. They're known for their rings. Yeah, there's a Great Frog in Soho.
Yeah, so this is from there, and they have meaning to me. And I don't know. I find quite helpful in social situations. I always felt like when you saw like a woman with a handbag and she's got all this stuff in there, I remember thinking that would be nice to just have these bits and pieces that might like calm you down, or just like if you're feeling socially awkward, you can get like the Vicks inhaler out, or like right, or just something that's just something to do,
Yep.
Yeah.
And
honestly, yeah.
And I've increasingly just like found the value in having like bits and pieces, like almost some kind of like mild psychic defense from the world or something. And I think jewelry does do that.
It's called stimming oftentimes.
Is it?
And I think like the bracelet that you have on your wrist, it's like a Buddhist kind of bracelet. People will take those, like the rosary in their hand, one of the very first stimmers, where you'll just kind of run those beads through your hands while you're sitting in traffic or whatever it may be that's causing you stress.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely therapeutic, isn't it? The counting on the beads, there's that. I used to do that type of meditation where you count the beads. It's quite a good way of just.
Sounds like a hoot. Hard to compete with the Instagram Explore page nowadays, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram competing with meditation or doing nothing. I mean, that's a big thing, isn't it? That is a big thing. I mean, it's definitely got unbelievably harder not to do anything.
Yeah. I don't know how people do it. Unless you've been doing it almost predating technology. You know what I mean? Not fully predating technology, but before it was like really part of our lives. You had like a very steadfast practice already in place.
I mean, in some ways, though, there is something that's become easier, which is that if you manage to get out of your house, get out of where you live without your phone, and you manage to close the door behind you and leave the building, you are basically on a retreat.
Yeah, no, sure. Yeah, no, you're right.
Immediately.
If I leave
with no expense.
If I leave my phone, in the house to go downstairs and pick up the newspaper, I'm on a fucking retreat. I mean,
it's a retreat, and it freaks you out like going on a retreat does. It's like, but then you potentially do realize after it's been 10, 20 minutes, you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I go on a retreat, and every year I come back from it, and I'm like, why do I take my phone out when I walk the dog first thing in the morning and go for coffee? That's insane, right? I'm going to stop doing that. And I say this every year, and it lasts a few days.
Sure.
And then you're just straight back to it.
I mean, what if something happens and you need to call somebody, Yeah, I think about that all the time, of what we did, back in the 70s. Like, I'm going to go to a football game, and if my mom dies, then that's what happens,
Yeah.
I'll find out tomorrow.
Think about if there's like a Sampha vinyl delay or some shit. You gotta answer the phone. You can't just be.
Giggs has trouble with the purple vinyl.
You can't be dicking around at the coffee shop.
The whole of the history of humanity, no one had these things, right? And everyone was totally cool.
That's right. No, that's true. Yeah, that's true. It's totally fine.
Everything was fine.
Yeah, I reminisce those times when you watch like Seinfeld or something from the 90s, and you come home from seeing a movie that wasn't very good, that cost $4, and you had a cup of coffee, and you get home, you hit a button, and then your friend called you and you call him back. I think that was the peak of communication to mental clarity ratio.
You're probably right.
What about the idea that everything's cyclical? Maybe everything's cyclical except technology. I don't know, but like, is there any chance we're going back? Could there be? I mean, there could be some event. I mean, it might be a catastrophe, I suppose.
We haven't necessarily gotten more intelligent with our technology. You know what I mean?
Is there any chance we're going back? Is there any going back?
I think there's.
Could we end up not using these things ever?
I don't know. I don't think we could ever go back, but I think there will always be people who aspire to that and are able to pull it off because they know. They remember a time before it.
I think that we will potentially get back to a thing where we don't really have technology in our peripheral vision at all times, but it'll be for reasons that are more dubious, like we have a microchip implanted inside of our body, so we no longer have to carry our devices around or look at screens.
That's perfect for me. Give me the fucking chip. I don't need to wear the Ray-Ban Metas. You know what I'm saying? Give me the chip. I'm straight.
Chris, you won't even get the real ID. This is a long ways away.
Well, that's because real ID, you got to wait in line. I don't want to do all that. The chip, maybe I could get a concierge doctor to come install the chip at the house,
That'd be great if you could just come over.
If you could just come over, that'd be super simple.
What's the real ID?
Real ID is this new thing that they've forced upon us in the United States that's basically like a driver's license with a little star on it, and they require you to have this to fly, unless you have a passport, of course.
It's basically like a national identification system, so we can keep a social score on us, like how they're doing in China. Track our movements and et cetera, across the federal level, and not just state by state.
Advanced than a driver's license, less advanced than a passport, but required to get on a plane anywhere. So a lot of people, it's considered a little shitty because there's a lot of people that only have a driver's license and don't have the time.
And it's also something that you have to pay money for.
Yeah.
So if they force everybody in America to get this and they spend $45 and get it shipped to them, that's an extra however many billions of dollars that we're just giving the government again on top of the other.
But the reason the real
billions.
ID, it was for, I would say, maybe 2 years. Every time you would go through TSA pre-check, they would remind you that you have to get your real ID by May 7th, 2025. And that day felt so far away for so long, and then it finally came. And we're here. And now it's part of our reality.
And now, thanks to Apple, we just put our passport on our digital wallet and we can circumvent
I
that.
haven't done that yet. Have you? Can I do
I don't
that,
know
or
if
do I
you
have to
can do
download
it yet.
something?
It might be on an update that's not here yet. But
Okay.
good old
is
Apple's
that's
doing it.
happening? That's happening, is it?
Yeah, they're gonna I think the newest iOS on the phone, you're gonna be able to put your passport on your digital wallet and just show that to them at the border. Which seems, I guess you could fake a physical passport just as well as you could a digital one. So the numbers got to scan.
That's right. Ocean's 11 style. I'm just showing up. I'm getting through every border.
But going back to the early new wave music of the early 80s, when you were enjoying that so much, I know that you were kind of in a hip-hoppy zone, maybe a little bit later, mid 80s, late 80s, making some pause tapes and things like that. Did you ever make any new wave music when you were younger, or did you ever make any Pet Shop Boys beats?
So I got I'm not sure if you can even call it a synth. It was called a Yamaha PS1. The weird thing is, I got one recently. I thought about it.
It's like the little plastic with white or black. It's like a little toy kind of, right?
Yes.
But it had power.
It's a toy. Well, the one you might be talking about the Casio. The Casio one was sick. The Casio one had like a drum machine. The Casio one was used on a bunch of dancehall records. There's one called NT40. That was sick. The Yamaha one wasn't sick.
I'm looking at Yamaha, the Porta Sounds.
Yeah, the Porta Sound. It wasn't sick. So I got that when I was really young, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to make a soft cell record now. I've seen soft cell on Top of the Pops. They were number one. I'm going to make a soft cell record now. And then I started playing with this thing and I was like, this sounds nothing like soft cell. And I almost felt like the investigation stopped there because I didn't know anyone else I could ask about it. There was no internet. And the idea of, okay, what is the equipment these people are using? What are those things? I just didn't know anyone who would have known that. And there was no way of finding it out. And I realized I couldn't do it on my Yamaha PS1 because it sounded like super crappy. And, they were soft cell, although it had like a DIY quality to it, they made their album in New York in a great studio with the cutting edge equipment of the time.
With $1 million worth of rack mounted effects and thingies. And I would always watch those like old Depeche Mode or New Order videos and them in the studio. And it's just, a guy playing guitar and like, okay, I understand that. Singing into a microphone, I get that. And then there'd just be a rack of 11 synths and compressors and reverbs and like, so you just made the whole sound by just turning this knob on a rack-mounted thing that looks like something that'd be at your uncle's house under the TV, and that's when I stopped as well.
Yeah.
And nowadays you can go onto ChatGPT and say, "I want to make a song that sounds like Depeche Mode, Question of Time. Tell me all the equipment and buy it for me on eBay right now," and I'll just be like, "Here you go."
It's just a question of time.
Although apparently the other thing you could do with it, because I bumped into someone recently who was saying to me that he recently got ChatGPT to teach him how to use modular synthesis. The putting together, and it's taught, and he said it's taught him from scratch.
Wow.
And it's incredible at teaching you stuff like that.
That's very, it's cool because when I brought up you making the pause tapes, like listening to radio and recording little bits and building samples and creating songs out of, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And nowadays people use AI to, create stems of songs, extract vocals, make mashups and, do this, do that. I like the idea of using AI to teach you how to use a modular synth. It's easier to fly an airplane than to fucking make a sound happen on a modular synth.
Very hard. So that was kind of interesting to hear about that. But yeah, I suppose the making of new wave music, like when I was listening to that stuff, I was too young then to like get any sort of a handle on it. And I think because then I was like, that's like early 80s. So I'm like 10, 11, 12, 13. And it was turntables. It was getting turntables. That was what was I always played guitar as a kid. I was kind of into it. I liked it. But nothing like with turntables. When I got turntables, I got like fully obsessed. And I think, did that 10,000 hours thing, I think, of like trying to create the breakbeat merry-go-round. And it's like that, and even to get like the first record I got 2 copies of to try and create the breakbeat merry-go-round.
Mm-hmm.
And being such a big thing, and me being and also I didn't have Technics decks initially. They were really pricey.
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that.
I had like a mobile disco set up.
Sure.
Okay.
And like that's like to develop those skills on that it's not impossible. It's very, very difficult.
Sure, it makes it even more challenging.
Yeah,
more challenging. And like, so yeah, the pause tape thing and like gradually getting to turntables and a mixer, I was like so serious about it. I was really just like into it. And yeah, I never became like as good as I wanted to be, but I was really determined about it. And also I did get paying gigs from when I was quite young. And I just thought, oh my God, this is just insane. How is anyone paying me to do this? This is my ultimate fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And someone is willing to give me money to do it. And like, I would totally be doing it if they didn't.
Right. How old were you when you got your first paying gig as a DJ?
I think I was 15.
That is young.
And I think I was also, that was the age when I also got a job in my local record shop on the weekends. So pretty soon after that, I got a market stall in Camden Market selling pause tapes. So I was doing all these things that were like, it was definitely entrepreneurial. Like I definitely had some hustle, and I was, we're talking about like 86, 85, 86, 87, 88. I mean, musically, obviously being for hip hop. And that became what I was completely obsessed. And house music, and house music excited me. And I did used to play house music as well. But I was a hip hop obsessive in that time. I mean, it was, and yeah, I guess we can say historically it was a special time. It was a good time. There were lots of classic records coming out all the time.
Yeah, you lived through it. Yeah, you lived through it.
That must have been so. I mean, it just feels like I'm imagining the Richard Russell biopic, working in the record store all week, and people coming in, hey, do you have this? Do you have that? Getting a discount, buying doubles. Maybe we'll borrow a record for tonight, and I'll put it back tomorrow. Go to the club, play it all. Everyone's loving you. You get money, selling your mixtapes, on the weekends and the daytime. That to me, that's just you don't care about anything else. You don't care about how you're dressed, what you're eating. You don't care about friends. Like you're just as happy and content as could be.
That's exactly it. That's well summed up. Yeah, I did not. I was.
It's all been downhill. It's all been downhill since that. And I didn't want to say it, but
until you found Buddhism, it was a rough road. And
I'm exactly the same. I've spent the last few days making a mixtape for Marianne Hobbs has a series on Six Music. So she asked me, like Friday evening, 7 o'clock. So she asked me to do an hour-long mix. And I knew what was going to happen. I knew I was just going to go down this hole of like spending way too much time doing this. But yeah, it was great. And what I realized while I was doing that is like when you do something like this for the radio, just, DJ mode, you're not thinking about it as samples. You can use anything you want without having to clear it. So that was great. I really enjoyed doing it.
I feel like you've been part of some. I bet you've been part of some great sample clearances over the years. I bet you've really been in the trenches of the sample clearance business.
That's true. That's true. I think I learned a lot about things. Well, particularly the first Prodigy album, Experience, which is a sample-based record,
Yeah.
I mean, Liam was great with synths as well. He was great all around. But I worked very closely on that record with him, and also, see, when we started, we weren't clearing samples. It was just before we'd be totally realized that. The Prodigy Experience album, we got a license deal with a lecturer. They were like, don't think of this as delivered. Don't think you're getting the check until the samples are cleared. And it was like, what? Like,
what
how's that going to work? Like, that sounds nuts. And I had like,
I don't like that at all.
No,
this sucks.
I had a huge sheet of paper, like a poster-sized piece of paper, and I had a list going down the side of every sample that we were using on the record. And then I was filling in the details of all the people we were meant to be talking to about clearing the samples and what was meant to be happening and stuff. And it was kind of interesting. It was like another sort of way of being granular about it and getting into the weeds of it. And they gave us a budget to do it with.
To me, that just sounds like the biggest nightmare. This seems like the most annoying part of music creation. And thank God that you found it kind of fascinating and fun.
At that point I did, because I think it was for an album. We had like time, and do you know what else? I think I felt like it made me feel grown up.
Yeah, for sure. That's like real. That's like real business.
I was so young.
You know?
I'm conducting business like a big man.
I'm clearing samples. I'm like, we're doing license deals.
Let's get him on the phone. Yeah, let's just cut the check.
Over the years, have you had to do the kind of or ask the artist to do sort of like the heartfelt letter, to get it cleared? They don't. Sometimes it's not about money. Sometimes it's about like, do I like you? Do I like what you're trying to do?
You ever write a letter to Brian Wilson's wife?
No, but there've been loads of things like that. I tried to clear something from Kraftwerk recently, and they just sent a note back just saying no. That clears
That's
out.
cool.
Well, actually, now that you say that, you've spent so much of your life trying to clear samples for records that you've released. Now you've released so many records. Do people come to you asking for a sample, and then you can go, well, I've got you in my spider's web?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways a little bit. I mean, there is this whole thing of like Who Sampled, which is great. I mean, I love Who Sampled.
For our listeners at home, Who Sampled is a website kind of database that shows very detailed reports about songs, almost every song in the world that has been sampled, who sampled it, the timestamp of where it is, and it could just be the sound, a half of a second of a dong, and it'll track it down. Friend of the show Bauer has a web or like an Instagram series where he goes through it, and it's really fun.
Well, yeah, that's that. It doesn't just point you in the direction either. It like, there's the song, there's the sample. You just press play. It's all YouTube clips. Mm-hmm. You just press play, and you can now. Oh yeah, like I said, it's bittersweet for a couple of reasons, because this used to be the secret knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. Like you did the 10,000 hours, so you know what to sample.
So there's that.
And only the real heads know.
Yeah.
And now technology.
Yeah. So there's that. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh shit. Like we got skeletons in our closet. Like they're all coming out on here.
You just hope that those skeletons were for a record that maybe didn't sell so many. It wasn't the Adele record where all the samples that you didn't clear were happening.
We're buried.
Yeah. What we can hope for, right?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't come from sample culture.
Yeah.
Her, like, although she's obviously a lot younger than me, she comes from traditional music writing and performing culture. And I remember when she first got sampled, I can't remember what it was. I was like, she wasn't big, and I was like, oh, this is exciting, right? And she was like, no.
No, I'm all set. I'm good.
Yeah. And I was like, no, but it's like, it's flattering. It's like, it's a compliment. And she was like, it's my music. It's not their music.
Unfortunately, that's a pretty fair argument. I mean,
I see both sides.
Yeah.
It's very fair. And I think having got through that initial thing with Prodigy Experience, which I quite enjoyed, I then started to get irritated by having to clear samples and like how slow it was and how much money it took and how much it slows you down. And I started to kind of resent it a bit. But then I think the next phase, and maybe it was to do with her saying that, was I did realize, okay, to be fair, when you sample someone, you're collaborating with them without their consent. Like you haven't asked them if they want to collaborate with you. You've just taken the bit. I think when you start off, when you come from the studio and you come from having an Akai sampler and you're putting something in it and you're sampling it, you're not really considering the human element of that. You're kind of considering the sound, the piece of sound. But someone generated that, someone made that music. And so at a certain point I was like, oh yeah, I mean, you can't really just go around taking people's stuff and use it. Because I used to think you should be able to do that. That would be fair.
Yeah.
There should be some type of amnesty. I mean, you can cover someone's record without asking permission, right?
But they get paid.
Yeah, but it's a standard. It's standardized. If you cover their song, they get all the publishing. They don't get any of the master. It's standardized. And I know there is a bit of a movement, I don't know how it's going, that says that actually it's almost like there's a prejudice against sample culture because of where it comes from. And it should be treated more like cover versions. And they should have made some way that, there should be some way of that guy. Do you know who? He's a writer, Dan Charnas. Do you know who that is?
Yeah. Is it his idea?
He wrote that very good book about the business of hip hop called The Big Payback. And he also wrote an excellent book about Jay Dilla.
Dilla time.
And I believe he was involved in some sort of a movement. Yeah, I mean, look, it would be great. It would be great if there was some way of changing the legislation so people could sample things and you still pay a bit, but you're not like completely hung out to dry and
giving everything over.
Yeah. I think that would be incredible if that was possible. I don't know. I've always been meaning to kind of look into that.
Yeah, I've always wanted there to be a way that you could take a mixtape that you've made at home featuring a bunch of songs that you like, that you put together in an interesting way. And instead of it going on SoundCloud and getting taken down or, hoping that it doesn't get removed on YouTube or whatever, put it on Spotify or Apple, any streaming platform. And then the artist that you're playing the song of will get maybe a quarter of a play or something like it. So we can listen to mixtapes made by DJs who are doing amazing things, not just here's my playlist, but, putting a lot of thought into it, building a piece of art. And then, I'm sampling a Joy Orbison song or I'm playing a Joy Orbison song. It counts as a quarter of a play or a third of a stream, whatever.
Such a great idea. And you would have thought the technology is there and that would be easy to do, but I guess everyone would have to kind of agree to it.
The technology is there to take everything down, so it's got to be there to pay everyone out.
Yeah. Do you spin? Do you play out?
I used to play a lot more. I DJ still, but not as much as I used to. But now with the success of the podcast, I'm getting more offers, and it's nice. It's fun.
Great. So you will you hop on a plane and go somewhere and do you do stuff? Do you guys do stuff live together for this, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do live shows and we'll do after parties and I'll DJ with some local guys around and play some festivals and things like that.
Great. This seems like it must be like a good job that you've got doing this. I mean, I know things always look from the outside different to how they are, but this, because I've listened to it and I thought when I've listened to you, I've enjoyed it a lot, enjoyed the guests, but I also thought that when it's just you two talking, that's also really entertaining.
That means you're a true head, Richard. That means, the real fans, the guest is just, and I feel the same way when I'm listening to a podcast over the years that I've liked. A guest just means that there's a chance that the episode is going to be bad. And if it's just the host that you know and love, it's going to be fine.
No pressure, Richard. We only got 15 minutes left, so you're fucked,
this is just great. But if somebody comes on, like we have a new actor on a new Netflix show, the chances of them being an amazing, hilarious, interesting, insightful conversationalist, if it happens, it's a surprise versus the opposite. So when we listen to our pods, we need this pod to be good. I'm going to go on my dog walk. I'm going to the DMV.
Yeah.
This has to be good or my day's ruined.
So if I'd have cancelled today, you guys would have been like, great. We just get to chat to each other for an hour.
I get excited if the guest cancels and I didn't really know who they were. If it's somebody that wrote a book and they canceled and there's a bunch of other stuff going on in the world in my life, then I will breathe a sigh of relief. It's also easier to edit with 2 people instead of 3.
Mm-hmm.
But we get legitimately sad if it's somebody that we were looking forward to. We spent the time to take notes and read their op-eds and memoirs and listen to their books and music or whatever, and they cancel. That's a bummer.
You know how these fucking divas are, Richard. I gotta hunt people down. That's a fucking. You kidding me?
Many people can't be arsed, especially we're traveling, we're touring, we're doing all these important money-making things, and then they're like, "Oh, you have to do a Zoom call."
Well, that's the thing. They're not even making any money on tour. I'm like, sit in the bus for an hour and let's get this going. You got nothing else to do. How long does sound check really take?
You know who I noticed as well is really good when there's not a guest there is Louis Theroux.
Oh, well, I mean, he's
got a new podcast series.
I didn't know he had a podcast.
Yeah, he's got a podcast, and at the end of every episode, he's just chatting with his producer in the studio, and he tends to just kind of go off a bit. I think he's meant to be reviewing what happened on the show, but he just tends to go off and he gets a bit kind of looser and silly.
Yeah.
He's so funny. That guy's so funny.
He's good. I mean, he's very good. I only really know of him.
British legend.
The only thing I've ever really watched was when he brought Pete and Carl from the Libertines back together on that, like,
I haven't seen that.
On one, it's really wild. It's really wild. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's like he sort of chases Pete down. They have this whole thing, and then they were reunited. It was a whole thing. Like it's very. But when it came out, a lot of people sent it to me because they know I'm a big Libertines head. So.
It was harder to bring those two together than to take down Scientology for old Louis, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. He went deep with that, didn't he? Yeah,
I'll give that podcast a listen. It's a BBC show, right? I think. Or
no, he does it. He's on Spotify now. It's like a Spotify podcast.
Oh, okay. But it was like a COVID project thing that turned into something bigger.
I think there was
right?
and now and now I guess now he's got a deal with Spotify.
Okay, well, I guess speaking of all these, sorry to interrupt, Richard. Speaking of all these,
no, I was just going to go.
Technological advancements and new things that we all have to do in the music world and the business of selling it's changed so much since the 80s. I know you have a deep hip-hop root and a background in it, and you at one point have represented all four pillars of the hip-hop community. So two questions: what was your graffiti name, and if there were to be a new pillar for these modern times of hip-hop, what would it be?
Okay. Graffiti, I would say, it's funny because immediately before this, I've been making a large welcome home poster for my son who's been away traveling to be on the wall when he gets back tomorrow.
Getting the cans out, huh? Getting the cans out.
I got the cans out and I was like, this isn't going to work at all. Like, how is this going to work? What do I think I'm going to spray? So then I reverted
Who do I think I am?
I reverted to markers and acrylic paint. And I got like halfway through and I was like, this is a fucking mess. Like the spirit is there. I'm hoping he's going to like be happy. I mean, I kind of like to shout, yeah, I'm not big, but it's big. He'll be touched, no doubt, but it's not that particular. And then, so at one point I thought, oh, I'll throw a tag in there. I'll kind of like throw something taggish in there. And I was like, that is so bad. That's the worst part of this whole thing. And really, my graffiti career, I got relegated to Lookout. There were three of us, and I got relegated. And they did it. My friends, they were both good. They're both good. They are both good visual artists, and they could both do stuff. Like, they were good.
They could do stuff.
And we were throwing up a mural on a building in Swiss Cottage, which was like it was some sort of medical facility. It probably wasn't called to be doing that. And
it was a children's church, and we decided to bomb it.
And I was the lookout, and the police pulled up, and it was awful. It was awful. It was like, I mean, I'd been relegated to a lowly role, and I screwed it up because they were just there. They were there and on us before I'd said anything to anyone. So I don't know what had caused my like lapse in concentration. I mean, I wouldn't have been looking at my phone because there were no phones.
That's
so I don't
literally
know
what I was going to say. You were daydreaming, night dreaming in this case.
Yeah, night dreaming, exactly. Early hours of the morning in Swiss Cottage.
So you didn't even have a chance to give a little bird call or anything.
Useless.
The coppers were on you.
Useless. So that was and I reckon that was a high point of my writer career. And my tag, I used to write, and it basically used to say like RCH and a 2, which is like, what even was that? It didn't really like.
Well, there was already one RCH, so you had to declare that you were
fair,
the
Richard,
second
I
one.
would say no graffiti name is really cool.
Right,
You just
yeah,
it's like once you hear it enough, you decide that it's cool. It's never cool in inception.
Just like every DJ name,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did place second in a breakdance competition once and won an album. It was like a youth club disco. It wasn't competitive. There weren't. There
It
was no
wasn't
one
too
there
hard
do
to
it.
play second. Is one of those. Yeah.
Nah.
We have tryouts for the football team, and everyone makes the team. Wouldn't you know it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. And what was the second part of the question?
If there were to be a new pillar of the hip hop community for 2025, corporate gig navigation or whatever it may be.
That's good.
The sixth element is corporate gig navigation. 50 Cent doing the
like,
Chick-fil-A 30th anniversary.
Videography or whatever, like you're having a cameraman follow you around to buy pants at Chrome Hearts, whatever. One of these core fundamental elements.
But Richard, did you? I don't mean to put you on the spot. Did you ever spit bars yourself, or was it just more of an appreciation and behind the decks?
You've got a 16 in your mental, don't you?
I don't. I never did. I never. The only type of vocal performance I've ever really attempted was I sung on stage once with like a band that I put together with my friend, and afterwards he said to me, I thought it went all right. And he said to me afterwards, that was bad, right? And I was like, oh, was it bad? And he was like, yeah, you were complete,
man.
And he was like, you were completely out of tune the whole way through. And I was like, oh, right.
Yeah, but in like a cool way, right?
I thought it was okay.
Kind of like a burial kind of way.
and I think,
I like the word atonal more.
I mean, he was definitely doing me a favor because, that job, you have to be built for that job. Like you have to be built to take and I literally crumbled the very first hurdle, which was like a bandmate criticizing my performance. I completely lost my bottle. I had like zero
I'm done.
confidence in what I was
I'm
actually about or doing. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing it again. And I didn't do it again. And so that would suggest I was not cut out for that kind of role. And yeah, I don't think it ever really occurred to me to even attempt to rap.
God bless. Me neither.
Yeah,
Me
I guess so.
And I think
Fortunate, I
we're
suppose.
better off for it for several reasons.
Yeah, you learn very quickly. You're better behind the console instead in a Quincy Jones or a Rick Rubin style position, working with the artist, not being the artist.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe like everyone's capable of playing multiple roles. I'm a big believer in that, and I think it's definitely can be quite harmful that people get put in boxes too quickly. I get why people put people in boxes because everyone's busy, so everyone needs to know. Oh yeah, these guys do this guy does that, and if they do something else, we're going to say they're like dilettantes or part timers. But actually, that doesn't really speak to the true nature of like artistry. People do more than one thing. Everyone does more than one thing.
This is good news for me. So you don't mind if I send my demo over, then you'll give it a listen. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable, but
I mean, everyone likes to, every type of artist likes to work in, especially if artists who've succeeded in a particular field, as soon as they're in another field, the pressure's off. So it's incredibly liberating to do it and really feeds you.
Yeah, I mean, that's why every musician wants to be a comedian. Every comedian wants to be a musician. And then they quickly learn it doesn't work out. But we all, or at least I want everyone to know, those who can't do can just make ambient music,
But the thing that I think, like, I mean, not to get serious or anything, but the thing I think is a big deal and is like a big missing thing in our world is like no one says to artists, even though like rap music has kind of clarified this, you'd think no one says to artists, you are a business person. Like as soon as you are an artist, you are a business person. You have a business. You don't have a boss. right? You are responsible. Your managers have their own business. So they might be great, but really your business could fail and their business might still be okay. And that's like the proof.
No, you're absolutely right.
I've said this to people so many times, and people often just seem devastated to hear it, because it's like, what? Like, I didn't get into this to do that. And it's like, yeah, I mean, no artist got into it to have to deal with like the boring stuff.
It's part of it.
Unless you're like incredibly fortunate to have someone truly who you can lean on and truly trustworthy and reliable. You've got to deal with some of that stuff. And you kind of got to be on top of it, because it's like you've got people running a business who don't even know they run a business. And it's hard enough if you do know you're doing it. So yeah, I mean, I definitely try and I think I used to like avoiding conversations about that kind of stuff because I'd rather talk about music. But then you realize at a certain point now, you can go broke easily.
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, that's your job is to help people. Everyone, they get a hit song, they put out a record, they're suddenly building the tracks while the train is moving. You have experience, you've seen this many times, and you can say, hey, build your track this way, not that way, and we can all,
it's very hard.
Help each other.
I've had an incredibly fortunate sort of set of circumstances in that I've had like the same business partner since I was 19 years old.
God bless him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really lucky to have someone there who was great and trustworthy and who was like good at doing that side of it. But obviously, I know a lot of people who've got businesses who don't have that, and it's you've got to do a lot of stuff. You've got to do a lot of stuff, but there's no avoiding it, is there?
Because you don't want to make sure that Peggy Goo's getting her checks on time. That's for your business partner, right?
I mean, but people start independent labels because they're fans.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not
fans of
business
music,
people necessarily.
And they're like, you're a DJ, you're a musician, and you start, and before you know it, there is all that very real stuff there to deal with, and so which explains why most of these ventures don't work out, because you've either got to find someone who's really going to be on it, which I was very fortunate. It almost kind of found me. It was weird. I didn't even know I was looking, but it was there, and so that was amazing. Which is Martin Mills, who's the Beggars, and he also came from a background of being starting a small independent label.
Big up, Martin.
Yeah, big up, Martin. Big up, Martin.
Richard, lastly, I wouldn't live with myself if I had you on the pod and did not ask for some type of burial story of some sort. If you've got a nice, handy, fun tale, anecdote, or just his anything about him, or something that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really like, I'm like a super fan, right?
I mean, I did not know to the extent, but one can assume.
So I love Burial. I love Burial. They're just the magic in what he does. There's so much. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? That someone who doesn't want to make their personality known, there is as much personality in that music as anyone has ever got into electronic music.
Mm-hmm.
To me, there's so much sort of blood in it, and there's so much sadness and just beauty. So the one thing I'll tell you is he sent me a really extraordinary, incredibly moving text during the pandemic that talking about what was going on and what he hoped would sort of flourish musically in the aftermath of it. And like this sort of, it was kind of like a sort of a hopeful vision he'd had of like how it might affect music making, and when people got to go out again, and when people got to be in those spaces again, and that time of us all kind of realizing this shit that we've always taken for granted. Because how could you not take it for granted that we got to go to these places, and there'd be all these people, and there'd be this music, and it being this incredible thing. We had it taken away from us, and it was, and we couldn't have known we were taking it from us. Yeah. So that was a very
beautiful.
Yeah, it was very, very beautiful and poignant. Yeah, it was incredible.
And then you were like, so does that mean we're going to get some DJ sets going after COVID? And he's like, no. I like it. It takes a guy who's never performed live to be like, once we're out of here and we're able to enjoy live music in the community and spaces again, a guy who I assume just wants to play video games alone all day. Very profound.
But isn't it?
And that's why we love him.
It is profound, isn't it? I think the way he does the whole thing is profound. It's beautiful, isn't it? Like to set an extreme example that not many people would follow, of like, in a world where everyone thinks you've got to do you've got to do everything, and does nothing.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, it's crazy.
Apart from the music, that is it. And I think it's very, very beautiful and profound.
Mm-hmm.
Love Burial.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you, Richard.
Richard, yes. Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
Thanks for having me.
And when I mentioned ambient music earlier, that was coming from a place of love. I'm a big fan, and everything is recorded solstice equinox. I was listening to it yesterday and today. It's very nice, beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you. We'll see you in London at Pizza Hut.
Yeah, we'll be in London first week of August. Let's link up for a slice, eh?
I'm not even kidding. Like I want to do it.
We're not kidding either.
We're not kidding either.
I got a feeling it's going to feel you're going to get full quickly from that. Like there's something about the density.
I agree with you on that.